It's our pleasure to be here today. So my name is Andy, Director of Business Development. Find the right thing to click on here. There it goes. From our side today, my name is Andy, Director of Business Development, Chief Transition Officer, essentially interim CEO by real world terms. Here at COMET, with me is my esteemed colleague, Mr. Brett, our product manager and implementation specialist, really the guy who, as part of our support team and onboarding team, will sit and actually meet all, we'll work through all of our customers. We'll talk about this in a minute, about how to make sure that COMET fits the needs of the people we're working with better, as best we possibly can. So just a brief history on kind of who we are and where we came from. So COMET was started in 2011 as Comprehensive Mentoring Technologies. We were created in a world where a child psychologist at Children's Institute locally here in Rochester, New York, needed a way to better assess the kids as part of one of the programs they run. Traditionally, they've done it on paper, scanned through an instrument, mailed back to Rochester, scored in a machine, results created, mailed back to the schools for intervention. Clearly, that became too long of a process and needed to be find a way to do this faster. Walked in the two gentlemen who started the project, Dr. Dirk Hightower and Dr. Serge Losa, got together to build a software platform or a web-based platform that could do that all in real time. From there, we've been kind of customer driven since our beginning, where everything that we've added over the years has been because someone asked, hey, it's cool that it can do this thing, but can it do this other thing too? Which turned into kind of our core set of functionality. Which I'll get to in a different slide. Sorry, I apologize. The functionality we've added over the years. So as a place to begin, I would love to hear, if you don't mind sharing, either out loud, in the chat, whatever's easier for you, as you're thinking about a data system to help you with the work you're doing. What are you looking for? What's kind of, why would you consider transitioning into something new? And no wrong answers. I'm fine with anything you decide. No answer is a wrong answer, but no wrong answers.
So we're looking for we have very specific needs for a school-based mentoring program database. And the current one we're using, they're not supporting as much. So we're trying to, but definitely someone who's willing to work with us to customize things, because there are very specific with the school-based mentoring, because you have multiple schools. And so you have to set it up that each of your schools can only see their school, but you can pull data from all of it.
Yeah, the unique challenges of working within a school or working in multiple schools, even in the same system, is something we completely understand. We really appreciate. Anybody else?
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Heather.
Yeah, thank you. Natalie here, just starting one system that will grow with you. That's a great thing. Yeah, scalability is something is a big, huge concern whenever as kind of looking at the agenda today, I understand you guys are listening to obviously us, and there's two other organizations you'll be talking to. That's something that I would hope that they all really, totally fine, that they all really hopefully understand, is we get that this transition from a data system or no data system to something new is a huge decision, a very powerful, very impactful decision. So understanding that what you're getting into is something you can use, whether you have 10 matches or you have 500. We want to, that's something that obviously we are aware of and get. So we can understand how important this decision like this can be. All right. So as we kind of think about COMET and the core functions that we've created over the years, at its core, one of the great things about our software system makes us a little bit different than a lot of other folks is we were designed from the idea of providing services to students. The reason that's different is we aren't built on a Salesforce platform. We aren't built on a CRM. We are quite literally designed as a child-centric data system that allows you then to build relationships outside of that. So we're really focused heavily on trying to maintain student records in a meaningful way, be able to actually maintain consents, maintain relationships, create relationships with multiple different types of folks, assign those kids to places they need to be, so you can track them where they need to be in the silos they need to be in inside your data set. Along with that, having almost the same level of power to track data on the people doing the work for your kids. COMET gives you the ability to do that as well. Manage their data, for lack of better words to use, data access level management is kind of exactly what you guys, Heather, you were just talking about, making sure that people can only see the data they're supposed to see inside the system. We were built on the idea of instruments and assessments. So we have a really powerful instrument module that we have that allows you to either use one of the 400 instruments we already have built. And this is everything from individualized surveys for a single class out to, we have an agreement with Brooks Publishing for the Ages and Stages questionnaire. We have an agreement with the Children's Institute locally for the teacher-child rating scales, actually do social and emotional scales with scoring, with outcome-based results, all built into the system, and the ability to build custom instruments or custom surveys or custom assessments if you decide that that's something you do want to do on the path. So again, as you think about scalability, the idea of a survey becomes an assessment by doing it over and over again over years and collecting data. So we can help you down that path if that's something you guys are interested in getting into. We do class and program attendance, so quite literally what it sounds, the ability to take attendance in classes in mass, as well as what our mentoring organizations tend to use is our service management module. So that allows you to track one-to-one service transactions. So one-to-one instances of in our case, a mentor and a mentee being able to meet and actually take notes, do capture an instrument or a survey, capture transactional stuff that happens inside those meetings. And again, that's something that we build custom to your program and what you want to capture to make sure your data is the way your data wants to be. Other things that we have that are built into the system, things like online student registration forms, so customizable to your organization to actually do so. If you are accepting students from outside of referrals directly from mental health agencies and things like that, so that allows you to do that. Communications module that allows outbound communications of both email, text, or phone to communicate with all the students in your system. And actually now, not just students, anybody in the system has a contact. And a feature I love, our support team is, sorry, go ahead. Our support team is fabulous and will generally answer you within 24 hours, but a really great thing is they also have understood the main functions that happen in COMET and have created a 24/7 online data center that allows you to then go see and learn and do anything you need to do. Most of the functions have a video that will actually walk you through the process step by step, so you can actually have anybody who's using the system be able to jump into the system and actually learn how to use COMET. So as we think about what we do, and one of the things, at the end of the day, a data system will generally do those things, right? We'll be able to keep track of your students, be able to keep track of your adults, your volunteers, whatever, and be able to do those main functions. I would imagine if they're here and talking to you today, they can do these things. One of the things that sets us apart is our hands-on support structure and the way that we work with our clients. So really, it comes down to our implementation team and our support team are going to go through and identify as much as we can about the organization that you can share with us when we start to do the onboarding process. So this is talking about, how are you going to use your data? Who is going to be using your data? How you actually want to work and how the things are, how are your mentors sitting down one-on-one with the mentees and then taking notes on paper and then handing it back to you, or you actually want them to go to sign with the system and do it themselves? What are your internal needs for reporting? Like, what do you want to know as an organization? And then what do your funders or what do the other stakeholders need to know about what's happening with your data? So the ability to understand what that looks like to make sure we show you what is correct and make sure the data we're collecting is organized in a way that it actually will meet those needs. And then obviously identify any incoming data, whether you're coming from Google Sheets, you have it all on paper, whatever you want to do, we'll find a way to streamline that process to get your data into the system so you can use it. And identify any instruments or surveys you might want to use, and identify obviously how the mentors and the mentees collect data and what they're doing, and make sure again what you're capturing then meets all the other needs of what you actually need your data system to do for you. So on our initial setup, that's what we do. Things like we take all that information and create your COMET client out of what we need to do for you. Then we also, what we do then is start doing a multi-level training, which is making sure we have our main point of contact knows how to do everything that we just already set up. And then we start to train your other administrative staff and anybody else who's going to be using the system. Again, this involves a personal contact. Brett or Todd, our other support staff, well, probably both, will actually be on a call and work with you one-on-one to make sure that when it's launched, it works and you're happy with it and we can continue to collect. And obviously those guys are then available whenever you need them to be able to answer more questions ongoing. So we're going to show you what COMET is in a second, the whole system itself, and kind of give you a quick overview of what's in there and how it functions and how it should look. And obviously we kind of talked a little about support and making sure that we can do custom, we can show you the way that it's set up for individual locations. But is there anything else that you want us to show you in particular, something real kind of a hot button thing that you really want us to touch on? Any wishes, dreams, hopes, anything at all for a data system?
Gary has a question.
Yeah, super
Sorry,
interested
Sure.
in how malleable the outputs are, because what we find is that in our reporting systems, different funders, different systems want different information. So we have to, relegate demographics to zip codes, and then other funders want actual client information. And every 3 years it changes because there's potentially a new funding source. So love to talk about that as we go along.
Great. Thank you, Jerry.
Yes.
That's a great question.
Mhm.
I have a question. I don't know if Heidi and Tina want to jump in. We met because we both use the same database right now, and we both have the same setup, our programs. So we have a big list of must-haves and wants. So I don't think I'd want to, take up the time here, but when would you want? I mean, when do you want?
Well,
Yeah.
we can certainly start walking through it. And if you see something that feels like it's close, just stop us and we'll address it right then to make sure that we're tackling all of those. That's fine.
Oh.
That's
Right. I really want this demo to be a conversation, right? Tell me, stop me, talk to me. One of our biggest things here at COMET is we listen. We want to know what the end goal is so that we can provide you with the best path forward when it comes to actually implementing something with minimal clicks, minimal effort, just something that's going to get you to what you want at the end and make sure that's fully upfront. And if it isn't, and we have blockers, we bring it back and say exactly why. Let's work through this. What can we move? What can we change to make it happen? So that's a very big difference between us.
Right.
I will be with you the whole way. I don't let anyone use the system that doesn't work for you. That's my first priority. We're supposed to be a tool that helps compared to a tool that makes your life difficult, right? But that's kind of, sorry, I kind of jumped on you, Andy, but
nope, 100% correct. It's we are firm believers in your data system you should never go, I got to log into this thing, or I have to pull a report that's impossible to pull, or I got to go manipulate a million things to make it work. Brett, I will actually stop sharing so you can get it kind of up and showing.
Oh, perfect.
But just some kind of little things about as we jump into this. We are firm believers in your data is your data. You're going to see a lot of things like in reports that will show, I think how to explain it. That'll show things like, it'll actually say export to Excel. Like your data is your data. You can take this out and use it however you want to. That's on purpose, right? We are stewards of it to make sure it's clean and easy to use, and you have access to it, you can collect it, and it all gets organized. we want to make sure that you can use it as you need to use it, and not be restricted by only the canned reports that we have. We can pull more stuff here. Additionally, just as a side note before we even get there, two side notes. Get that back. COMET is a site-based pricing system. We organize this by organization, by sites that we're going to put in the system. That said, that means there's no, we have unlimited users and unlimited students, or unlimited, we call them students. That's my other caveat in a second. So just as you're thinking about this, we only do this by site, so we can figure that out. So we can certainly talk offline for any organization that wants to get a little deeper into what we're going to do, how we come from that, and what our pricing would look like, so we can get there when we get there. But again, what you're going to see here, and I'm sure Brett will touch on this in a second, we use a couple of main terms that we use. Schools, our sites, so anything that pertains to where it's done is generally known as a school in COMET. We call students. Obviously, if they're mentors or they're clients in your system, in your life, and the way that you guys operate, that can actually be changed to whatever it needs to be. We use child professionals for teachers, generally also the mentors turned into child professionals or volunteers, and obviously administrators. So you're going to see like a lot of really kind of COMET focused terms. Kind of apologize if this is just kind of how it looks. What we do during this process of onboarding as well is understanding how you operate, the word terminology you want to use, and we actually will adjust COMET as such, so it will match your kind of colloquial terms of how you guys want to operate in the system. So that said, drive away, Mr. Pratt.
Perfect. Andy, just so you know, I hit everyone's video and everything. So if anyone has questions or anything and raises their hand, can you take over for me?
I will do my best.
I'm kind of just going to go through everything, but if you guys unmute yourself and talk, that would be even perfect too. So this is COMET. So to start with COMET, kind of like how I explain the system is through how its usability starts, right? So with our system, our user menus are all a vertical or a horizontal. Oh, 1 second. A horizontal kind of landscape when you go to navigation. Everything that you utilize functionality-wise, tool-wise in COMET is based on where you go. So for instance, and I'm showing you my view, which is someone that has a crazy amount of privileges, every privilege in the system. So there's going to be a lot of options. And then I'm going to explain our customization and how we change the system. Just like Andy was just talking, where students becomes clients, and it really is specialized to what you are as a role in your organization, exactly what you need as a tool or function, exactly the verbiage that you use within your organization. We change all of that. So for instance, someone that has crazy amount of powers in the system will have functions and tools kind of throughout the system, just like this. All of this menu and everything on this are every piece of tool and function when it comes to student data management, and everything that we have there. We specialize these menus so that you don't have all of these looks. If you utilize 4 of the functions and there's 100 options, we can specialize it to be the 4 options that you utilize. You don't have to navigate the system, right? We'll mold it around you and everything you need to do. Now, with that being said, also, we create user templates and customize features where it kind of changes all the verbiage. So what do I mean by that? Let me show you. I'm going to show you one of our templated option that we do for an after-school program that we offer here, where they have members, they have attendance in their programs broken down into the few options they need. And the reporting, everything's broken down to exactly their verbiage. They can go right. It really is a custom system for you. We change all of this. This is a part of the onboarding. This is really our hands-on, making sure everything works and everything is easily trainable for you guys, just to make sure that we can kind of keep using the system going forward, and identify needs that we don't have in the system for you. So what I'm going to show, and just like we said, please stop me if you have questions on anything. I have a user here set up that has a specified view, where we kind of did a quick mentoring kind of option in COMET, just to kind of show you the workflows that we have and offer with every aspect of the system. So COMET is really to manage, to record, and then to report. So you manage and configure everything you need to record, and then you have reports at the end state to pull out the outcomes. Any data point you're looking for, Jerry had a question with being able to query the database based on different questions you ask. That is exactly what the system is made to do. Everything you record in the system has a query based on pulling it in a report. We have a bunch of different custom reports that allows you to create what you need. Also query the system based on the data to say, hey, I need everyone that is this zip code, just like you said, right? Everyone on this zip code, but I'm pulling a list of, I need gender, I need date of birth, I need their first name, last name, I need their communications, their parents' name, everything. You can create a report. All of our reporting platforms in here allow you to save as Excel. So if you're very comfortable with using Microsoft products or using Excel, it definitely allows you to take it out of the system and easily transition it in any way you want. But it will collect all of the data that you collect in the system in one aggregated way. We have reports that are individual based. We have reports that are everyone in aggregation. We have quick number reports if you don't want to see names. All of the different options in the system exist from your data. So does anyone have questions so far? Okay. Unless I'm too quick. So how we kind of set this up is in a different view when it comes to COMET. This platform is set up for attendance recording and one-to-one service recording. So one-to-one intervention with notes and or documentation and or you have specific questions or instruments you want to complete with your clients. This is how this view is set up. Basically, everything is created under an admin platform or an admin user menu, which is basically all of your functions. When you go to the management aspect, the reason we call it management is because the system was built on tools and configuration platforms to allow you to create what you want. The good thing with COMET is this is our production environment. This is live data, active data. We also provide you a sandbox environment. So if you want to see if I configure this tool this way before you have it live. So if you want to kind of like make things or play or let's reconfigure this, see how it works in reporting, you absolutely have the power to do so. We have the ability to provide you that sandbox basically to be able to play with what we set up without impacting your current data, right? So really plan out and organize any updates that we need to make in the system or anything that you're looking to do in the future, maybe make a report or two, anything like that. So when it comes to the student management aspect or the client management aspect of COMET, we have lists. And the lists are generic, just like Andy was saying. It's generalized to kind of our verbiage. You can record students, which are your clients. They have a very different profile than the other three options. Basically, more fields, more fields, more options. We're a child-centric system. So all of the data for children is what we focus on. But we do have profiles for family, child professionals, and administrators. Typically, how we break this down is family members are family members. Child professionals for us, we work with a lot of school districts. That is your teachers. We work with a lot of volunteer organizations, which that usually gets changed to volunteer. That is a smaller group of access points basically in the system. So a lot of privileges. It has less privileges than an administrator would have, which is kind of the whole picture of the organization. They have more powers in the system. Maybe they are the ones that are in charge of doing the setup and the configuration, and the child professionals or volunteers they're utilizing it, right? The day-to-day users, that's exactly what they have to do. And that's the list. So within the system, when it comes to data collection in our data storage, you would access the list that you're going to utilize. So we're going to work with my student or my client. This whole page and every page, mostly in COMET, has user scoping. So to go off of Heather, your question on scoping basically is what we call it. Who has access to what location of data? And if you had 5 locations, for instance, so let's say this person that I am impersonating here has access to just our demo school 1. we have 6 other locations that are created in the system. You can't see it unless you are given the access to do so. You cannot see the records, you cannot see the notes, you cannot do anything like that. That is already built in the system. So you can actually give access points to your users to make sure that they have exactly what they have to see, right? We also have the ability, like me, that has all function. So I can see every location. I can see all aggregated data. That is built right into the system and in all of our workflows. So in here, we have the ability to, one, search for your members, right? Or create somebody new directly in the list. Everything we do in COMET's directly where you're going. Basically, if you're looking for it and it doesn't exist, we give you the ability to create it right then and there on the same page, so you don't have to utilize different parts of the system. So for instance, we have the ability, so this, I'm just going to use my test Adam person here just to show you. We have the ability to do a quick snapshot, which is a nice view of all of the information that's completed for this student. Their relationships, what are they registered in classes, their consents, what are they allowed to do based on consents that's approved in there, what schools are they a part of, what is their medical information, all that information. This is a quick snapshot of the profile, which is what you allow to get into and create. So this is what our student profiles look like. You can actually upload a picture if you want. We have member cards in the database. So if you do if you record attendance, we have the ability to create member cards for you to use barcode scanners. We've had organizations use thumbprint scanners, all sorts of different things, but that ability exists in COMET for you. So we require, our database is based off of duplication of data. We really monitor the fact that we are longitudinally a historic database. So what that means is we have the ability to, and typically for school districts, for instance, they have the need of, they have their school, let's say 2023, 2024 year, starts in September, ends in June, and that's their year. We have the ability to cut off time. So longitudinally, we can track the student from year to year to year to year, even if they stop year 2, but we're in year 5, right? The data is stored in the system and archived, and it allows you to transfer the members forward if you had that kind of need, right? We also have the ability to have an open-ended year, which you have basically every student or every client on the list is the active, like all the active members that are existing right now. And you basically use it as such, where when someone is out of the database or out of the program, you can actually inactivate their profile. It'll hide them from the active list. You can bring them back if they come back. We are based on that longitudinal thought process where we give you basically, and this is to answer the question earlier. We have the ability to start you fresh. So if you have new locations year 3, you have new reporting needs year 3, we can activate different fields and tracking and different instruments and different things because we cut off time. We give you a blank database that starts for, let's say, 2024, 2025, and we can create anything you want moving forward and really expand on it. But then that database going forward is updated. What you had archived is stayed the same. So your historical data is stored, archived, and intact, basically. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I have a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
looking up 2 computers here, but on this form, can we add customized fields?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely. All these fields, let me show you. So our profiles are based on the premise of duplication. We track, so getting back onto the longitudinal, there's 3 fields that we require for every profile, and it's the green fields here. We require last name, first name, date of birth. We used to require gender. We don't require it anymore for our duplication rules, but basically it doesn't allow you to create somebody twice. I have little Johnny. They were created year 1. If you try to make little Johnny again as the same person, it'll say, it'll stop you and say, you cannot make this person it seems like this person already exists. It tells you and completely stops you from duplicated data. The other piece of that is if someone actually does exist, that is little Johnny and little Johnny, they happen to have the same name, they happen to have the same date of birth, we give you the tools to actually be able to manually override our duplication so you can create that profile. So we have all these different things that track in the system when it comes to creation to make sure that your data is pure, clean, pure, and it is exactly this longitudinal tracking system for every client. So let me show you the fields. So you can either navigate the profiles by clicking each individual if you want to see the member management, or if you want to see the addresses, anything like that. Every field in here has historical data entry. So if you ever make a change to a field, like let's say 123 Main Street, it'll show you the user that made that change, the date, exactly what that value was. If I changed it again, it'll keep updating. It creates a history horizontally for you for every field in the system. So you could always track changes, who made the changes in the system user-wise. Really, it really records everything you're looking for when it comes to security and or historical data management.
Brett,
And with
I
so
had
many,
a quick question.
Yeah.
Is there a way to have links? So how we have it set up is links to our application for the mentors and the mentees kind of in one program, and then you can assign them to the schools because they move schools rather than having the schools have to enter the information again. And the mentors, we just want them to be able to fill out their applications online. Does it have that ability to send links to fill out like applications?
Yeah. So applications as in like a registration or so when we went over kind of or when Andy brought up instruments, right? Tools, surveys, instruments. If we ever need registration or creation in the system, we have an online registration process that automates creation of members, right? Asks, we can customize the task, all the questions you have for registration. When it comes to instrument recording or tools like that, we also do have the ability to send hyperlinks. So if we create a tool or a survey, that will get a hyperlink, and essentially we can send that to anybody. And as long as they know the 3 identifiers, name, first name, last name, date of birth, and it matches the profile in the system for the student they're trying to work with, it allows them, the next step is that goes into them and records an instrument and records that survey underneath their record. Does that make sense? Did that answer?
yeah, the online registration tool is a hyperlink system that allows you to send it anywhere you want for somebody to fill that out. And that'll automatically create students and their parents and actually create those 2 records in the system at once. As well as if it's an existing person who's already in the system who has one, it will find them and move them to your current year. So especially as we kind of work through the years through time, if Test Adams filled out an application last year, you accepted into the system, he exists, and he fills out another application for the programming this year, it'll actually look back, see his profile, and reactivate it in the new year for you.
And you could do that with volunteers as well.
We're getting there. That's actually something we have in the queue right now to actually have a multiple forms for multiple programs as well as different person types in the system. So that's on the roadmap. Should be done relatively soon. I know we're working on a couple other projects right now, but that's on our radar.
Right now, it only creates the students and the family members.
And Tina, to answer your question, I think a little deeper as well is on this. So, Brett, if you can expand everything real quick.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot of fields on here. So, but if it isn't on this particular screen, and you do want to collect it, this is one of the things that we uncovered during our onboarding process is what we call them UDFs, or user-defined fields. We literally build you your own special box for your program on the bottom of this list that you can collect anything you want in any way you want to use it. And then those fields are then added to the other flexible reports that allow you then, like I said, Jerry, to be able to pull or filter that information by what's in those boxes as well.
Right.
So it kind of gives you that flexibility to say, there's a lot on here, but if it's not perfect, or you need to know specific registration dates or specific activation dates, or things that are important to your program. We can do that as well.
Right. Right. We have a lot of clients that, I mean, I have a client that has 50 custom fields. They use a certain amount of our fields, and then they had 50 other fields that they needed. Every time you use or record data in this field or any of these fields in COMET, we have a customized report that literally allows you to aggregate and pull out and make your own report based on that field for everybody, including your custom fields. Yeah.
Yeah. Another question. Sorry, I've
Yeah.
been having technical difficulties, so you might have already answered this.
All right.
So since we can customize it and we can even customize what we view, you must be saving those customizations in a different way so that when you do an upgrade, because our the software that we use right now that Heather also uses, everything had to be consistent across organizations. So we couldn't customize things because they would automatically upgrade our software and it would wipe out our customizations. So I was just wondering how you handled that.
Yeah, we
we do that.
transition. We transition. That's a great question.
Fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah, we transition. So this product here, what we're looking at here is our core product of COMET. We do have other apps and other things that we have that are like one use, one organization functions that are custom. But this data here, whenever we transition or if we do upgrade our systems in the future, this is what we're focusing on that's getting moved first. So all of your customized everything in these profiles, they're coming over. We already have that as our roadmap for our future.
Right. Those UDFs are unique to your COMET client.
Yes.
And are stored with your COMET client, so your data will continuously live there.
Yep.
Whether we make updates for even because you guys use the same software today, if you do have different fields you'd rather track, you will have different fields that you will track. Your views will be COMET, but will be different. There's no, and one of the benefits for one of the reasons why we've stayed web-based for as long as we have and haven't gone to an app is it allows us the flexibility to have our upgrades in the way that we're going to hold our platform, and you don't have to do system-wide changes for every client. We have a lot of controls that are customer specific. So
to be
Right.
clear,
Yes.
to like just be clear on Tina's question,
Mhm.
if there are custom fields that they have for applications or whatever,
Mhm.
when you all do your updates and upgrades, the custom
Mhm.
fields, their data
No,
will
that's effective.
still be there. They're good to go. No problem.
that will
Absolutely.
never be affected yet.
Yes.
Got it.
Yep.
Yep. And it's even on our roadmap. If we ever had custom fields we weren't bringing over, we are maintaining those.
Right.
So we are maintaining them still for everything too, as like an advanced answer too. Because we have to. So
Right. Even if you have a field that you use and then decide not to use it, and we turn it off, the data will still live in your client. And if you decide to turn it back on, you will just turn it back on. The data will be live. The data will be live again.
Correct. That's a good point too. When if a location closed, and historically the location was used for, let's say, the first year or two, and then it closed year 3, but you had another school open, all of those past records that used that school that was closed stay intact. So all of it's still recorded on that school. So if you ever need to go look back at that data for those years, it is exactly where you left it.
Mhm.
And along those same lines, when we do the data migration, if we have fields that don't exist in your system, you would create those fields, we'd migrate our data, and then we can look at past data.
Absolutely.
Yeah, whatever. We'd find a way to make that happen. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we have in the past done what we call an archive year. So we actually will open a year prior to the year you start and take whatever past data you have and put it in that year. If that's, we'll find a way to make this work, whatever kind of works best for the organization, how you want to track it. But we're happy to explore that as we talk through the onboarding process and what that looks like.
Yeah.
So just to
Mhm.
clarify, if we have data that goes back 5 years at least, I think, it would all go into 1 year when we migrate?
Depends on however you want to do it. We will find whatever the most meaningful way for you to access that data is. We will talk through that and make sure that it's how you want to use it.
Yeah, we've done all the options for migration projects for archiving, as in 1 year, as in 5 years, 2 years.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this was just kind of the student profile and how our profile is kind of set up. When you go to any of the other profiles that were mentioned, the child professional, the admin, or the family members, this is exactly the same, just less fields. Now, with the question of custom fields that you want to track, absolutely, we have the power to create custom fields for specifically family members, child professional volunteers, admins in the system. That is exactly the same as student records. We can create those fields that are just for them. We can create fields that are shared across all of them. We could do all sorts of things in the system. Now, the other option on our custom fields is it doesn't just need to be a string, right? Where it's just an open text box for you to have information. We could create different types. We can create check boxes. We can create multi-selects, any radio button, any option that you like to use as a tool. We set it up that way. Drop downs, anything you want. That is exactly, we have full access to all of those tools. For instance, if you want to drop down like that. So now when it comes to, let me show you this. So when it comes to that, the user question with scoping, this is exactly, we have scoping not only for users, but also students, members, they have user scoping as well. So if they're only going to be a part of a specific location and have a specific set of services, we actually customize and make those services for that location. And that's what's offered there. If they go to a new location that has different offerings, they have different offerings. Everything in system is based on what that location needs to do in the system. We set it up that way. So for this kiddo, for instance, we have them at Demo School 1. So that is the only location that they have currently because of the user I'm using. I can only see the fact that I have access to Demo School 1. So when it comes to this student, I'm going to show you guys the next piece of the system, which is our one-to-one intervention or our notes module when it comes to service transactions. We call them service transactions as in we're giving one-to-one services, but we can name that anything you'd like. Essentially, you're creating moments in time and tracking attendance with notes and or attendance with other things, right? So let me show you here. Every time we create a one-to-one intervention, it creates a historical vertical mapping that can be changed for everyone. Now, some reports in COMET are year-based where you can only look at them, let's say 2023, 2024. This is the year. This is the data from the year. This service and one-to-one interaction is all years. So it actually allows you to pull data from previous years and everything like that. When it comes to creating a service, we essentially set up different types. It knows exactly who the user is, which I have a ton of users in here. It will generally put you as your user. The services that are offered, we create a whole list of drop-down options where you basically select and you can categorize topics, categorize different things. But when it comes to the service itself, it allows you to configure what is offered in there. What is tracked? Do I want to track duration? Do I want to track contact type? Do I have a custom group of questions I want to ask? Do I have an instrument or a document I need to upload specifically for this one service? The comments here are exactly the notes. So if you have any comments or anything on here, it will record as such. All of this can be reported on. All of this can be reported individually or aggregate. Now, what I wanted to show you is kind of the same, kind of similarly where we started, which is we have a ton of options, right? We can customize a lot of different things. And even if we don't have options up here in the settings, we have the ability to, one second. When you save one time, it gives you all sorts of other options. We can record participants in the visits. We can record relationships that they have in the database, the links to that. We have case management software, referral management software. You can start an instrument directly from here. So if you had an instrument or survey that you wanted to complete, you can directly go right into that instrument and complete it for that member at that time. If you had just some questions you wanted to ask, like who canceled the visit, if you wanted to track that kind of data point directly in the service, you can record that. If you needed a document that you wanted to upload right in here, you can upload a document directly to that note. We give you full flexibility when it comes to what you want to record in your data set for one-to-one intervention. Does that make sense?
Right. Natalie just asked a question about
yeah.
creating relationships. Yeah. The relationship creation in COMET is manual, but it is, once it's created, it's tracked across the system so you can see where those relationships go.
Right.
Um,
Right. So right here, this is just a view of someone that has two relationships, a teacher and a learning specialist. One is me and one is somebody else. But directly in their profile, you could do it from two different ways. Everything in COMET's kind of two different ways, what view you want to track. If you want to go right from the student's record, you can create the relationships and the links right there. It allows you to create a tree. It records the start and end date for that. What relationship type is it? We also have things like pick up drop off rules in there, like start and end times for pick off drop off for specific family members. You also have this same ability when you're going from the other side. I am the volunteer that wants to see my caseload of who is my relationships. When you create relationships in the system, everyone gets a customized, and I'll show you from my view because I know I have some. They get a customized automated user menu called students, clients, whatever we would name it for your verbiage. And it centralizes specifically only the people you have relationships to. So if you had 10, this list would be 10. If you had 50, it would be 50. It gives you
that really goes down to like the idea of, are your mentors the ones you want to be storing the notes or taking the notes and putting directly in the system, or do you want to, or is that done by a supervisor, or whatever the process looks like? You know, we can start to have this thing match where your mentors and your mentees can have their own singular list, or you can have a supervisor that sees all of the list from the student's view to be able to track that.
Right, for navigation purposes,
or adults, as the case may be. We can do that as well. Again, it's designed to be for students, but the tools in here are flexible enough that age is but a number, I suppose, for all of us.
I showed you guys the manual way of everything in the system. Like, how do I get to doing one-to-one notes? How do I get to the relationship window? How do I view my instruments for this kiddo? Like these records, all of that is a part of the tool. So like, instead of going directly into the profile with the edit function, oh, that's Josh Allen. You can go into it by directly clicking these buttons. The handshake is services. I'll bring it right to their service records. We have a notes module that's directly in here. If I want to see the instruments that were created and who created them, there's a whole list. Shows you all the different options and all the answers that were provided. If I wanted to see who their relationships was, we have the caregivers button that show exactly the relationships there of who they have relationships to. So yeah, I did the extra click way to show you kind of the manual way, but eventually once it's configured, once it's set up, and once we have all of the links in place, it's really utilizing the quick access tooltip, the tools. The nice thing about COMET as well, even though we kind of customize your page and customize all the links you have in tools, you have the ability to make your own bookmarks. Every page has a little star at the bottom. And as soon as you bookmark it, it creates a bookmark page for you. So if you find yourself specifically using 4 specific links only, you could bookmark them. It'll send you directly to that function as soon as you click that link instead of going into the user menus. Yeah, so it's very quick that way. Now, if you have anyone that is an admin person who has access fully to the system, and you have the ability to actually impersonate your users. So you can actually impersonate anyone you have in the system or that you created in the system and see what they see. So if they're running into a roadblock where they're like, I don't have access to this and I don't have functions to this, and you wanted to specifically see why, you can actually go through their eyes and see what they have access to the system and changes it. So there's a lot of different flexibilities in the system that we have for changing around records. And I know we have, 5 minutes. Do you guys have any other specific questions of topics you want me to jump into?
This was a lot.
It's a lot. It always is.
We can appreciate that. So I will give a caveat. If anybody's interested in seeing it slower, we're happy to do that too. You just let me know and we can organize that. But there's a lot. It's as configurable as it can be a little daunting to try to take on as anybody who's ever dealt with custom software before, it can be a little daunting to try to take on the task of making it fit what you're trying to do. The good news is this is custom 80% solved. It's a 20% customization that allows you to make it fit what you're trying to get done in a way that's meaningful to you. So that's kind of our ultimate goal, is to make it, again, make it so it's not a hindrance. Make it so it's something you can actually use, and the data you're collecting is not just to collect data, it's actually to make an impact on the work that you're trying to get done.
One of the
Yeah,
best, can I ask a quick question?
Please.
Yeah.
One of the best practices in youth mentoring is regular match support. Sometimes that's monthly, sometimes that's quarterly, depending on the situation. Is there a way that the system can automatically schedule and remind you to do those calls? And like, is there a way to track how many of those calls have been completed per month or not completed? What does, with match support being such a big practice of youth mentoring, what does match support look like?
Do you have like a form that's completed for the calls? Like, just to ask a question on it, just so I can answer.
Some programs do a form, some programs have a conversation. I would say best practice is to have a conversation.
Okay. So we don't have kind of a function that schedules a scheduler, essentially, right? A scheduler of services.
A service transaction scheduler is exactly what that sounds like.
Right. But we do have a form scheduler. So we are built on the outcome-based platform. So if you have a form, like a call form or anything like that, you can absolutely set it up to do a frequency, is what we call it, which schedules out when they are supposed to be completed with actual expiration dates on the side. Like, when is it due? When's the deadline met? When are you late? When's the warning? You could do all of that. But when it comes to like service scheduler, we don't have that function currently. But we're always listening. So when we update our system,
I wrote that down.
We always keep that in mind when we have kind of these custom needs for a bulk of our clients, right? That's
so
exactly.
If you Brett, can you jump over to closed delivered services?
Yeah.
From like an administrator perspective, you could certainly see this through some of the reporting that's in here. So we created a service type that was monthly contact, with notes, with whatever you want to have, whatever you know that should be done during that time. You can use a report like closed delivered services, which is any service transaction that was completed within whatever time frame you're looking at, and actually be able to see every student, every person, or every by mentor and mentee, what got done in the course of that month. A scheduler we should do. So I just wrote that down. We can talk, Brett and I will talk about that tomorrow, about how we actually started to build that. But it's you have the ability to see this, at least from an administrative perspective, so there can be some personal contact between the administrators and the mentors, if that's something interesting. So this gives you, there are some flexibility in here to actually show you that data. And then the intervention will have to figure out how to better support that intervention process.